I smoothed my navy sheath dress as I stepped into Vleta. Velvet drapes, marble floors, money in every corner. My family had chosen this place on purpose, to make me feel small. Wow, my brother Grant said, loud enough for nearby tables. Didn't think you'd actually come. This place isn't exactly economical. No logos. No diamonds. Just sapphire studs and a calm face. I'll manage, I said. Celeste leaned toward my mother. We should have picked something more budget-friendly for her. If only they knew I owned part of the group that bought this restaurant last spring. The Hollis family dinners had turned into a quiet competition ever since I walked away from Hollis Equity 12 years ago. Grant stayed. He became CFO, the golden son. So, Mira, he said lazily, taking his seat. Still playing with those drones? Something like that. They didn't know Artemis AirTech had just signed another global expansion contract that morning. They didn't know the email begging for a logistics deal came from Grant's own company. Celeste smiled sweetly. We just ordered a new Bentley. Custom interior. Hand-stitched leather. Nice, I said. Grant smirked. What's it like taking the train to work? Efficient, I replied. My father cleared his throat. Not everyone is built for real finance. Then Celeste clapped softly. Tell them your news, babe. Grant straightened. We're closing with Argon Freight. Midwest Logistics. Billion-dollar territory. I almost laughed. Argon Freight had been mine for 6 months. When's the pitch? I asked. Tomorrow morning. Their CEO is flying in by private jet. My jet. I ordered the chef's tasting menu. My mother froze. Mira, that's very expensive. Don't worry, I said quietly. Grant snorted. What next? You secretly own a jet too. His phone buzzed. He glanced down. Color drained from his face. Excuse me, he muttered, standing fast. I could still hear him near the lobby. What do you mean the meeting is canceled? That's impossible. That's $1 billion. He came back pale and tight-jawed. Everything okay? Celeste whispered. Fine, he snapped. Just business. I took a slow sip of wine, already drafting tonight's email in my head. Celeste rushed to recover the moment. This restaurant belongs to the Vleta group now. Grant and I bought shares. Almost 5%. How lovely, I said. The waiter arrived and placed a rare bottle beside me. Compliments of the owner. For Miss Hollis's table only. Silence. Celeste blinked. There must be a mistake. No mistake, the waiter said gently. All eyes turned to me. I lifted my glass. How generous. Grant's phone buzzed again. The next morning, I watched the security feed from my office on the top floor. Grant paced the glass conference room, early and desperate. My assistant's voice came through the intercom. Mrs. Hollis, your father and brother just arrived with Mr. Campbell. Perfect. I opened my laptop and scheduled the email. Subject: Regional Partnership Update. Dear Mr. Campbell, after careful consideration, Argon Freight will be pursuing alternative strategic partners. We appreciate Hollis Equity's interest, but our long-term direction lies elsewhere. Send. 10 minutes. Esther Guards. Mira Hollis, CEO, Argon Freight. 10 years of being ignored. Mocked. Underestimated. That chapter ended today. On my security feed, Celeste was fixing Grant's tie like a campaign manager. My father sat at the head of the table, smug and confident. Then Julia's voice came through. The Argon team has arrived. Shall I send them in? 3 of my executives walked into the glass room. Grant jumped up. Welcome. We've been eager to wait. Where's your CEO? My COO smiled politely. Miss Hollis sends her regards. She's chosen to handle this differently. Celeste frowned. Miss Hollis. Right on cue, Grant's phone buzzed. I watched his face collapse. This isn't real, he whispered. They rejected us. You should ask Mira, my COO said evenly. Celeste laughed too loudly. What does she have to do with any of this? The screen lit up behind them. Mira Hollis, founder and CEO, Artemis Holdings. Owner of Argon Freight, Vleta Group, and 60-plus subsidiaries. Estimated net worth, $8.2 billion. I stepped into the room. Silence shattered. "Good morning," I said calmly. Grant sank into his chair. My father couldn't move. Celeste whispered, "But you drive a Honda. You borrowed money." "I own the dealership," I replied gently. The loan story was for convenience. Grant looked up, shaken. "The jet, the terminal. Argon." "Yes," I said. "All mine." My father finally spoke. "So, you were building an empire this whole time." "While you mocked my drone hobby," I said, "I became one of the largest private investors in the country." I turned to the windows. "The restaurant you bought shares in? I own 40%. This tower? I bought it last spring. That private aviation firm you rely on? One arm of my aerospace division." Celeste started to cry. "Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me?" No one answered. My father tried to recover his voice. "Now listen." "No." I cut in. "You don't get to play family now." I set a folder on the table. "Let's talk about Hollis Equity." Grant stiffened. "My team found inflated margins, off-book transfers, and $3.4 million quietly routed to a Cayman account." Celeste turned on him. "Grant, what is she talking about?" He didn't answer. "Here's what will happen," I said calmly. "Grant resigns today. Quietly. This report stays private. And if he doesn't," Celeste whispered, "the regulators love paperwork like this." My father whispered, "You can't do this." I pressed the conference phone. "Julia, initiate clean sweep." "Yes, Miss Hollis." Celeste looked around in panic. "What does that mean?" At this moment, I said, "Artemis Holdings is announcing the acquisition of a majority stake in Hollis Equity. Full audit. Full restructuring. Starting with leadership." My father collapsed back into his chair. "You're taking over our firm." "No," I replied softly. "I'm fixing what you protected." At the door, I paused. "Oh, and the wine last night? It costs more than your new Bentley." The weeks after were fast and brutal. Grant resigned. Celeste filed for divorce. My father took early retirement. Hollis Equity became a clean, compliant division under Artemis. The market loved it. 3 months later, my mother asked to meet me in a small cafe. "Why did you live like you were struggling?" she asked quietly. "When you were already rich?" I stirred my espresso. "Because I needed to know who you all were when you thought I had nothing." She lowered her eyes. "We were awful to you." "Yes," I said. "You were. Can you forgive us?" "This isn't about forgiveness, Mom. It's about trust." She had no answer. 1 year later, I sat on my jet, returning from London. The Artemis portfolio had expanded into Europe. Grant now sold luxury SUVs. Celeste lived quietly in a small apartment. My father owned a modest condo. The legacy he guarded had disappeared. A message lit up my phone. "Happy birthday, Mira. I miss you." I watched the clouds slide past. "Mrs. Hollis," the flight attendant said softly, "we're preparing to land at your private terminal."
"Thank you," I said.
"And please have my Honda brought around. I'll drive myself today." Because sometimes the real victory isn't money. It's knowing you never needed their approval. Sometimes the one they mocked for taking the train ends up owning the rails. That evening, I locked Grant's resignation letter into my safe, beside the restaurant receipt and my grandmother's old note. "Let them underestimate you. Success is sweetest when it blindsides them." And she was right.